The political firestorm surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard last month, a judge issued a temporary restraining order preventing Dalton, Illinois, Mayor Tiffany Henyard from making certain appointments without approval from her supervisor, Trump. This ruling came after a series of public controversies, legal battles, and growing unrest in the community. In an interview, Henyard admitted to facing immense pressure, describing her experience as something out of a novel, filled with lawsuits, restraining orders, and public outrage. But how did things spiral so out of control? At the heart of the controversy is an ongoing conflict over village board meetings. Normally, these meetings focus on budgets, ordinances, and community issues. However, in Dalton, they've become a battleground. The trouble started when Henyard insisted on holding meetings at Village Hall, despite its limited capacity. As more residents showed up to voice their concerns, the Illinois Attorney General's office noted that state law requires public meetings to be held in venues large enough to accommodate the community. Ignoring these concerns, Henyard refused to move the meetings, frustrating residents who felt unheard. In response, the Park District trustees offered a larger venue that complied with state regulations. While many saw this as a practical solution, Henyard and some local officials resisted, arguing that it was an inappropriate setting for government meetings. This stance only deepened distrust in her leadership. The situation escalated into legal battles and increasing public anger. Lawsuits piled up, driving up legal costs and raising concerns about the misuse of taxpayer money. Many residents began to question whether Henyard's administration was serving the community or engaged in political infighting. What began as a simple dispute over meeting locations has turned into a symbol of dysfunction in Dalton's local government. As legal costs rise and frustrations mount, Henyard's political future remains uncertain. The divide between her administration and the community continues to grow, leaving many wondering how this political storm will end. Will Henyard navigate her way out of this crisis, or will public pressure force her to step down? One thing is clear, the turmoil in Dalton is far from over.
To correct those things that the Attorney General required. And so we believe that for that reason, the meeting was...
Mayor Tiffany Henyard of Dalton, Illinois, has found herself at the center of a controversy that extends beyond routine local governance, spiraling into a legal and political maelstrom that threatens both her position and the integrity of the village. From defying state regulations to facing allegations of corruption, Henyard's actions have drawn intense scrutiny, raising serious concerns about her leadership, ethics, and commitment to the community. What initially seemed like a straightforward administrative issue has escalated into a crisis with potentially long-lasting consequences. The controversy began with Henyard's refusal to comply with state officials' recommendations regarding village board meetings. The Illinois Attorney General's office had warned that the village hall was too small to accommodate the growing number of residents attending the meetings. State law requires public meetings to be held in venues that ensure transparency and community participation, but Henyard ignored these directives, insisting that meetings remain at Village Hall despite its space limitations. As frustration grew, the local park district stepped in, offering a larger, state-compliant venue. This alternative would have allowed more residents to engage in discussions and voice their concerns. However, Henyard strongly opposed the move, arguing that the park district was not an appropriate location for government meetings. Her refusal to compromise only deepened tensions, leading residents to perceive her actions as dismissive of their needs. Tensions reached a breaking point when Henyard attended a meeting at the park district, arriving late, making provocative remarks, and abruptly leaving after declaring, "I am the mayor of the village of Dalton." Her dramatic exit was met with boos from an increasingly frustrated crowd. Instead of de-escalating the situation, she escalated it further by shifting the focus from the venue issue to an aggressive legal battle. She filed a lawsuit against the park district and several village trustees, claiming that the meetings held at the park district were unlawful. Despite clear legal backing for the park district meetings, Henyard insisted that the venue violated her interpretation of the law. Critics, including trustee Jason House, argued that Henyard's actions were more about consolidating power than upholding governance. House, who has advocated for transparency, supported the park district meetings as a more inclusive and legally sound option. Meanwhile, Henyard's erratic behavior at meetings and her unwillingness to collaborate with trustees turned routine gatherings into spectacles of dysfunction. Legal troubles for Henyard mounted when a county judge issued a restraining order preventing her from making key appointments without board approval. The order came after she attempted to unilaterally appoint a new village attorney, administrator, and police chief, positions traditionally requiring board consent. The ruling signaled that her attempts to consolidate power were legally impermissible. However, Henyard defied the court order, continuing to make appointments despite legal restrictions. Her disregard for the restraining order put her on a collision course with the legal system, further alienating her from both the courts and the community. As the legal battles intensified, new allegations surfaced that could pose even more serious consequences for Henyard. Reports emerged suggesting that the FBI had launched an inquiry into claims of financial mismanagement and corruption. Rumors spread that she had used her political position for personal gain, enriching herself and her associates at the expense of the residents. Allegations of bribery and questionable contracts awarded to close associates raised concerns about the integrity of local governance. The most shocking revelation came when Henyard's longtime boyfriend testified against her in court. His testimony included allegations that she had misused public funds for personal expenses, indulging in lavish trips, expensive purchases, and a lifestyle far beyond what one would expect from a public official. According to his statements, Henyard had treated village finances as her personal bank account. Additionally, he claimed she had engaged in nepotism by awarding lucrative contracts to friends and family without proper oversight. As more evidence surfaced, the courtroom drama intensified. The emotional weight of the testimony was heightened when Henyard allegedly lost composure and confronted her former partner, turning the legal proceedings into a spectacle. While political rivals accusing her of corruption was one thing, having her own partner testify against her added a new level of gravity to the scandal. Public outrage spread rapidly, with Dalton residents taking to social media to demand accountability. Calls for her resignation grew louder as citizens expressed their frustration over the allegations of corruption and mismanagement. A trending hashtag demanding her removal underscored the community's disillusionment with their mayor. The controversy, which started as a dispute over meeting locations, has now escalated into a full-blown corruption scandal that threatens to end Henyard's political career. With an ongoing investigation, mounting legal battles, and an increasingly dissatisfied public, the situation remains volatile. Whether Henyard will manage to survive this crisis or be forced to step down remains to be seen, but the consequences of her actions are likely to be felt in Dalton for years to come. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's tenure in Dalton, Illinois, has reached a breaking point. Once supported by a loyal base, Henyard is now facing increasing opposition as a constant stream of legal battles, scandals, and accusations erodes faith in her leadership. Even those who once stood by her are finding it difficult to defend her actions. Her attempts to frame the ongoing turmoil as politically motivated attacks have become less credible, especially as new revelations continue to emerge. With each new scandal, her strategy of shifting blame onto others is failing, leaving her isolated and vulnerable. At the heart of the crisis are the village trustees, who have worked tirelessly to keep Dalton functioning despite Henyard's persistent interference. They have struggled to ensure that the community's needs are met, but the mayor's defiance has made governance nearly impossible. Henyard has openly disregarded court orders, including a restraining order prohibiting her from making key appointments without board approval. Her blatant disregard for the law has destabilized village operations, leaving Dalton in a state of crisis. At one point, a judge even threatened Henyard with jail time for her repeated violations of the restraining order, an extraordinary step for a public official. Yet she has shown no signs of backing down, continuing to act as though the rules do not apply to her. It appears she is testing the limits of the legal system, treating governance as a game of brinksmanship. Her defiance increasingly resembles that of a political figure operating with impunity, seemingly immune to accountability. As the situation worsens, The trustees are left navigating a maze of legal battles and disruptions. Henyard's refusal to cooperate has created an atmosphere of hostility, bringing the village to the brink of collapse. Trust in her leadership has eroded to such an extent that even her closest allies are questioning her ability to govern. With each new scandal and lawsuit, the dysfunction in Dalton deepens, further alienating residents who are desperate for stability. Public frustration is at an all-time high, with many questioning whether Henyard's grip on power is worth the chaos it has caused. As tensions between her and the trustees escalate, it is evident that Dalton is at a crossroads. The legal battles, public scandals, and constant drama have left the village in a state of uncertainty, with no clear path forward. Residents are left wondering whether this conflict will ever be resolved or if it will continue to tear the community apart. Despite the gravity of the situation, Henyard insists she is the victim of a politically motivated effort to discredit her ahead of the next election. She has repeatedly denied mounting evidence of financial mismanagement and corruption, claiming that all her actions have been in the village's best interest. However, as the allegations continue to pile up, her narrative is becoming harder for the public to believe. The stakes are high. If accusations of financial mismanagement are proven true, the consequences for Dalton could be devastating. The village could face a financial crisis, with residents bearing the burden of Henyard's alleged misconduct. If legal action forces her out of office, the process of designating an interim mayor would only add to the existing uncertainty and division within the community. Despite mounting pressure, Henyard remains defiant, refusing to take responsibility for her actions. Her insistence that she is being unfairly vilified has only deepened the division in Dalton, leaving residents questioning whether she can be trusted to lead them forward. Many wonder if she will ever face serious consequences, with growing skepticism about whether the legal system will hold her accountable. One online observer remarked that instead of working for the village's success, Henyard appeared to have siphoned public funds for personal gain while paying others to cover up her actions. This perception has only fueled public outrage, leaving residents feeling frustrated, helpless, and disillusioned. Dalton is now at a breaking point. The community is divided, and the uncertainty surrounding Henyard's future has sparked widespread speculation. Will she finally be held accountable for her actions, or will she find a way to weather the storm and cling to power? As the crisis deepens, residents are watching closely, their frustration growing as they wait for answers. With each passing day, the situation worsens. Henyard's repeated violations of court orders and interference in village affairs have created a toxic environment that stifles progress. The trustees are doing their best to keep Dalton running, but their efforts are continually undermined by the mayor's actions. In a village already in crisis, a change in leadership may be the only way forward. Henyard's grip on power is weakening. The question remains, will the legal system finally hold her accountable? Will the mounting evidence and pressure from residents be enough to force her to step down? Or will she continue to fight back in a desperate attempt to retain control? As this high-stakes drama unfolds, one thing is certain: Dalton's future hangs in the balance, and its residents are demanding answers.